I want to delve into this Hunter Biden stuff. As you know, this is my wheelhouse. I have many wheelhouses. This is certainly one of them. This is a straightforward tax evasion. For 4 years, Hunter Biden didn't pay any federal income taxes. He didn't underpay. He didn't make mistakes. He didn't pay federal income taxes for 4 years, from 2017 to 2020. And when he did file tax returns, he filed knowingly false tax returns in other years. And it's calculated that he owed $1.4 million in federal income taxes. Of course, we don't talk about state income taxes, but Delaware, I believe, does have a state income tax. I'm sure they're going to get right on it. $1.4 million he didn't pay. Now, typically, you've got interest on something like that and penalty on something like that, and it keeps building and building and building, as a matter of fact. And he spent the money on all kinds of frivolous things, all kinds of grotesque things. He's a sick man. But being a sick man is no excuse for violating federal law. And to me, the defense has a real problem, as do the media. On the one hand, they say this man was addicted. He couldn't function. He was mentally handicapped. Yet on the other hand, over $30 million poured into his coffers. Not just from foreign countries, but enemy countries. Front corporations. Burisma. Front company. For a state-run communist Chinese oil company. Over $30 million. Now, other family members are mentioned in this indictment, too, like Joe Biden's brother and others. We know of these front companies that were created, these wash-through companies, over 20 of them, by Hunter Biden and his lawyers. And so what does all this mean here? First of all, it's amazing to watch the media. They are disgusting. Whether it is their support for Hamas, whether it is their support for Russia collusion that never existed with Trump, they are an unconscionable, immoral, sleazy bunch. They're Democrats. So today, they're very busy trying to defend Joe Biden. Joe Biden's not mentioned. So the legal analysts say. Joe Biden's name is not in here. There's nothing about Joe Biden in here. Joe Biden's not in here. And Abby Lowell, Hunter Biden's lawyer, is a desperate, desperate lawyer. You know what he's figured out, ladies and gentlemen? You know what the argument is here? Well, it's the Republicans' fault that Hunter Biden didn't pay his federal income taxes. It's their fault. This whole thing's been politicized. It's his fault. No, it's the Republicans' fault. How did this all change all of a sudden, he says? They had a deal, and now all of this. Because the judge put an end to the fraud that was taking place. She would not accept the so-called deal. She could see, it smelled, it stunk to heaven. And in the end, the two parties couldn't even agree on what they were supposed to be making a deal on. Because Hunter Biden and his lawyers blew it. They should have taken that deal. He should have admitted some level of guilt. But he didn't. Because he's a Biden. Thinks he can get away with it. Let's continue. This proves, say the media, that the Department of Justice is honorable. This proves they're not covering up for the Bidens. Really? This proves that the special counsel is doing his job I saw, again, Hunter Biden's lawyer refer to the special counsel as a Republican. You know, they used to refer to him as a Republican to show how fair he is to Hunter Biden. Now he's a Republican because how bad he is to Hunter Biden. So what's going on here? Couple of things. Joe Biden will pardon his son, whether he's reelected or not. These are federal charges. Joe Biden can, and I predict will, pardon his son. You can pardon somebody who's not been convicted yet. You just have to pardon them broadly for anything they did or may have done. It's happened before. So Joe Biden will pardon his son. So the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, his son is really in no danger of serving 1 minute of prison time. I hear people, could be 17 years. It won't be 1 minute. Number two, now Hunter Biden will use the fact of the charges against him as an argument for not testifying before Congress. You have a right not to incriminate yourself. And if you testify before Congress, you may incriminate yourself. Well, they can probably give him use immunity. That's been given to people who've been defendants in cases to testify before. That won't be done here. It won't be done here because the Republicans want his testimony. Biden doesn't want to give him the testimony. So this will drag out for a period of time. Number three, I read this indictment carefully. There's absolutely no focus on the source of the money. Zero. Isn't that the big deal? Isn't that the big issue? Came from the communist Chinese, came from the Russians, came with the prior pro-Russian Ukrainian regime, and other miscreants and malcontents. Over $30 million. There's not a word about that in the indictment. And the media are in full cover-up mode, Praetorian Guard mode, as they were when the laptop was discovered. We have a media that keeps telling us that the president's not connected. There's no association whatsoever. They have no curiosity. When it's Donald Trump, he's guilty as charged. That's the end of it. Over $30 million. A drunk. A drug addict. A sex addict. We're told he couldn't function. While he's raking in tens of millions of dollars. While he's running, I don't know how many businesses, front groups. Creating these wash-through, these launder-through companies to try and conceal where the money's coming from and who's getting what. Which is why Comer and his committee and others have had to issue subpoenas to banks and get around the Biden administration to get some access to these wire transfers and bank accounts and all the rest of it. Now, we're to believe that while Hunter Biden, over a course of years, is making tens of millions of dollars, while Joe Biden is vice president of the United States, while the communist Chinese pay millions of dollars to the University of Pennsylvania to set up a phony think tank in Joe Biden's name to get him a $900,000 a year salary for which he did nothing. We're supposed to look at all this, America. These infinite number of transactions, payoffs to a drunk, druggy, sex addict, good-for-nothing kid who never did anything for the money, but sold his name. Hands his daddy his phone. His daddy's at dinner. His daddy's met most of his business partners. His daddy's staff, when he's vice president, is in touch with Hunter Biden and Hunter Biden's partners and his staff and his businesses. And we're told by CNN and MSNBC and all the other reprobates, there's nothing here. Move along. Move along. And then they tell us, you can't prove fill in the blank. Where are all the journalists? Where are all the investigative reporters? They're nowhere because they're not assigned to do a damn thing. If you want to hear propaganda, if you want to hear state-run media, watch CNN. If you want to hear propaganda, state-run media, watch MSNBC. If you want to read government talking points, Biden talking points, read the New York Times and the Washington Post. It's all right there. The Republicans have nothing. Aren't you even interested in the New York Times about any of this? You were quick to do the cover-up job on the laptop. You're good at cover-ups. The Holocaust, the slaughter of the Ukrainians by Stalin in 1930. You're very good at cover-ups over there at the New York Slimes. Joe Biden is corrupt. And the story changes. He didn't know anything about about his son's business activity. Nothing. He's handed a phone. He's meeting people he doesn't know, but he knows their business. Playing golf. I didn't know anything. I didn't ask anything. I don't know anything. Okay. He's going to play the role of the dummy. I don't recall. I don't know. The media. It's not the president. It's his son, for crying out loud. They're going after his son. It's okay. They've gone after Trump's sons. That precedent is, and daughter, that precedent's been set. That precedent's set. Doesn't matter anymore. That used to be the case, but it doesn't matter anymore. Given what the Democrats and their media did to Donald Trump and his family, and still are. And they're creating other precedents that will be used against the Democrats now or one day in the future. You know, they're the arsonists out there. They think that only they can light fires. It's not true. But in this case, they have Hunter Biden dead to rights, okay? The problem is, this is being done in part to protect Joe Biden. Hunter Biden's not going to serve a minute in prison because Daddy will pardon him, whether he wins or not. Hunter Biden will not testify before the House of Representatives because now he's been indicted. But, Mark, it could be a different subject. No, it's not going to work that way. What else is missing? The Foreign Registration Act. It's a very broad act. It was never used to prosecute people before, I think, in its entire history, less than half a dozen times, but then here comes Donald Trump. Here comes Paul Manafort and Roger Stone. And so they dust it off and say, hey, we have a weapon to use against these guys. FARA. Say what? FARA. FARA. Wasn't she a model? Didn't she pass away, Mr. Producer? No. FARA, federal law. Federal law, yeah. These interactions with federal government, with other governments, and by the way, you don't have to take one penny. They didn't register. So throw the book at them. Get that Manafort, put him in solitary confinement. Get a SWAT team over there. Get a SWAT team after Roger Stone. Throw that guy in prison. Excuse me? What are you talking about? Yes, now put a gag order on them. Make them shut up. They can't defend themselves in public. No. Just let CNN and the rest of them smear the crap out of them. He hasn't been charged with that violation yet. Hopefully he will be, because that ensnares Joe Biden.